Hey kids, coming up in this episode of By Kids for Kids Storytime. The terrible trio is far too messy. They've tried to think of a solution.
We have two choices. Only two. We either scrub this cave until it shines like a fairy's polished teapot, or we pack up and move to the Sludgebrook Swamps forever.
Wizzlethorp the Wizard pops in and suggests some ideas.
My dear friends, it sounds like you've fallen into a false dilemma.
And after the show, we are joined once again by Stephanie Samos, who explains the false dilemma fallacy.
If you don't cheer for our soccer team, you must want us to lose. This statement makes it sound like there are only two possibilities.
But first, let's hear who the superstars are on this episode.
Hello, my name is Elise and I live in Australia and I just moved house and I went to a very long holiday in Europe and I loved it. And I am 9 years old.
My name is Nicholas. I'm 9 years old and I like to play video games and Lego. And I'm from Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Kaya. I'm 8 years old. I come from Cavite, Philippines. What I like to do is making paper squishies, swimming, and hanging out with my friends.
My name is Leah. I'm 4 years old. I come from Australia. I love playing with my dad and my sister.
Well done, kids. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to perform with us, we'd love to have you on the team. Go to bykids4kids.co and click on Audition. Okay, let's get on with the story. The False Dilemma. Deep within their cave in Snaggleton, where their air was usually thick with the rich smell of old socks and rotten cabbage, something was very, very wrong. Grumblegut the Ogre, Trolla the Troll, and Snotbeard the Giant, known far and wide as the Terrible Trio, were not happy. Their cave was normally a delightful mess of bones, slime puddles, and interesting bits of garbage, but lately it had reached a new level of disgusting. In fact, revolting. Their favorite slime puddle, usually perfect for wallowing, had dried into a crusty, crackly pancake. The mountain of stinky socks was so tall it nearly touched the ceiling. And, worst of all, Snotbeard's pet squelch worms had gone missing in the gloop of forgotten meals.
Oh, by the snot gobblers of Sludgebrook Swamp!
Grumblegut bellowed. He stomped his huge foot, sending tiny bits of old food skittering.
This cave is a bungle splattering mess. Yuck, we can't live like this.
Trolla sniffed.
I can't even smell my own slime.
Snotbeard the Giant was carefully poking a pile of old boots with a stick.
My poor squelch worms. They're lost in the muck. We have to do something.
Grumblegut pounded his chest.
I have it. We have two choices. Only two. We either scrub this cave until it shines like a fairy's polished teapot, or we pack up and move to the Sludgebrook Swamps forever.
Trolla and Snotbeard stared.
Fairy's teapot?
Trolla shuddered.
The cave would be cleaning. How could we possibly live at a place that cleans?
And the Sludgebrook Swamps?
Snotbeard grumbled.
That's bonkers. It's even stinkier than here. And the mud is so deep, our squelch worms would get lost every day.
Grumblegut nodded grimly.
Exactly. But what can we do? We must pick a choice, even if they're both horrificulous.
They began to pace around the messy cave, each of them arguing about why their two choices were so dreadful.
If we make it shine,
Trolla groaned.
you have to use bubbly water.
and we'd have to wear clean clothes.
Snotbeard added, his voice trembling at the thought.
No more wonderfully worn out rags. Imagine trying to eat a spider sandwich with clean hands. Revolting!
Grumblegut pounded his fist into his palm.
And the noise! The squeaky clean sounds would hurt our ears. No more satisfying crunches of old bones. No more sticky, squelchy footsteps.
But the swamps,
Trolla wailed, holding her head.
it's a disaster.
The mud is so deep, it goes over my knees.
Snotbeard complained.
I get stuck every 2 steps. And the rocks are too soft for a proper mighty boulder shatter. It's no place for a giant like me.
They argued for what felt like an entire day, going back and forth between the terrible thought of a sparkling clean cave and the even more terrible thought of the Sludgebrook Swamp. They stomped, they groaned, they sneezed and they sniffed, but they couldn't agree on which choice was less terrible.
It's either sparkle or swamp.
Grumblegut finally declared, throwing his hands up in despair.
There are no other options. None.
Just then, Wizzlethorp the Wizard was passing by. He heard the loud groans and frustrated bellows. He stopped. Peering into the messy cave entrance, he saw the trio arguing furiously. The stench was too much to bear, so he pinched his nose to block the smell.
Excuse me, guys. What's all the fuss about?
He asked, stepping carefully inside. Grumblegut turned, surprised.
Wizzlethorp, we have a problem. A humongous, horrendous problem. Our cave is a flibberty gibbet of mess, and we only have 2 choices. Make it sparkle like a fairy's teapot, or move to the Sludgebrook Swamp.
Wizzlethorp blinked. He looked at the mountain of socks, the crusty slime puddle, and then back at the distressed trio.
Only 2 choices?
He asked, scratching his head.
That does not sound right at all.
But it is.
Trolla insisted, wiping a slimy tear from her eye.
Grumblegut said so. It's either super clean or super slumpy. There's no other way.
Indeed.
Snotbeard agreed.
We've argued about it for hours. There are only 2 options that exist.
Wizzlethorp chuckled.
My dear friends, it sounds like you've fallen into a false dilemma.
The terrible trio tilted their heads, puzzled.
Oh, what now?
Grumblegut rumbled.
A false dilemma.
Wizzlethorp explained, stepping a little further into the cave, careful not to get too much grime on his pants.
It's a tricky way of thinking. When someone tells you there are only 2 choices, and both of them seem bad or impossible. But really, if you think a little harder, there are usually lots and lots of other choices.
Lots of choices? Like what?
Well, think about it. Does your cave have to sparkle like a fairy's teapot? Or can it just be less messy?
The trio looked at each other. Less messy?
You could just tidy up the biggest piles. You could build a special stinky stuff shed outside the cave for your sock collection. You could let in some fresh air to make the cave less whifflesome. You don't have to become sparkling clean fairies to make your cave comfortable.
Snotbeard's huge eyes lit up.
A stinky stuffed shed for my socks?
Trolla giggled.
If it's only less messy, my mushy hair won't fall out.
Grumblegut thumped his chest, a new kind of roar escaping him. A roar of realization.
He's right. We don't have to be very clean or blunderbuggy. we can be something in between.
They all looked around the messy cave. It didn't have to be either perfectly clean or hopelessly dirty. There were other ways.
We could just sweep some of the bones into a neat pile over here.
Snotbeard suggested, already starting to gather old rib cages.
I could use my sneezing power to blast the dust out of the cave.
Trolla exclaimed, taking a deep breath and letting out a powerful, slimy sneeze that cleared a patch of wall.
And I can build a proper shelf for the stinky socks.
Grumblegut announced. Wizzlethorp smiled.
See, many choices. And now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go outside to breathe. Goodbye, friends.
He zipped away. The terrible trio got to work. It wasn't a perfect, sparkling, clean cave or a perfectly horrible swamp. But they tidied, they aired, they organized. Grumblegut constructed a wonderfully wobbly sock mountain storage unit. Trolla cleared cobwebs and dust from the corners. Snotbeard carefully sorted the old bones into neat, clanky piles. And in the midst of it all, they even found the squelch worms, wiggling happily beneath a pile of old moss. Their cave was still messy, still smelled distinctly trio-like, but it was no longer a complete catastrophe. It was their kind of comfortable, and that was just right. The next time they faced a problem, Grumblegut laughed.
Now, my Grufflemuffins, do we only have two choices? Or are there oodles of other options?
Trolla and Snotbeard grinned.
Oodles!
They shouted. They had learned that sometimes when you think there are only two choices, it's often a false dilemma to make you pick one of two bad options. But with a bit of clever thinking and a willingness to look for more choices, there was always a way to find a better, happier path, even for the terrible trio. Hey kids, we are so lucky once again to have Stephanie Simoes from Critikid with us. She's here for a fourth time to help us become even smarter thinkers. Remember kids, we've been talking about fallacies. This is when someone makes an argument that sounds right, but if you look closely, it doesn't actually make sense. Today, Stephanie will guide us through another type of tricky argument called a false dilemma, just like we heard in the story. Stephanie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Dan. So let's start with an example. If you don't cheer for our soccer team, you must want us to lose. This statement makes it sound like there are only two possibilities. You either cheer for our team or you want us to lose. But maybe you just don't care whether we win or lose. We saw an example in a previous episode. Stanky's straw man argument was also a false dilemma. He thought, I'm either good at everything or I'm good at nothing. He didn't think about a third possibility, that he's good at some things.
So, false dilemmas happen when we think there are only two possibilities when there might be a third or fourth, or even more.
Yep, but there's actually another kind of false dilemma. If someone says only one of two things is possible, but they could both be possible, that's also a false dilemma. For example, if you buy a plastic water bottle, you must not care about the environment. It's possible that both are true. You do care about the environment, and you usually try hard not to buy plastic water bottles, but you're very hot and thirsty, so you needed to buy one this time.
So, for example, when a server says, you can either have free fries or a free salad with your burger, that's a false dilemma?
Actually, no, because in this situation, it's true that only one of these options is possible. Sometimes you really do only have two options, and sometimes you really can't pick both. You could probably get both fries and a salad if you paid a little extra, though.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. That makes it so much clearer. Tell us a bit more about Critikid.
In addition to critical thinking courses, Critikid has worksheets and lesson plans for teachers and homeschooling parents. They cover all sorts of topics like busting superstitions, seeing things from different perspectives, the placebo effect, and, of course, logical fallacies. And for any listeners who enjoy tricky brain teasers, Criticate has a bunch of free puzzle cards. But be warned, some of these puzzles are challenging even for adults. Finally, I've written a book that teaches young kids that changing your beliefs when you encounter new information is not a weakness. It's a superpower. The book is called Milo's Mind, and it's currently available on Amazon.
Kids, if you'd like to try these worksheets or puzzles, go to criticid.com. And Stephanie is giving away a free course pass on Criticid. How? Send us a recording of yourself explaining a false dilemma. You can make it up, or you can tell us about a false dilemma that actually happened. To submit your answers, go to bykids4kids.co and click on Contact. Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us on the past 4 episodes. You've really taught us a lot, and we'd love to have you again.
Thank you. I hope to be back soon.
Bye.